because it feels like the Sivir was very wasted when you have a Janna. Because if you have a Nautilus, if you have an
Mm,
Alistar, he gets into the back line instantly. You get to be aggressive. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Janna versus a more aggressive pick like the Nautilus?
Janna is kind of trending out of the meta just because you have the power picks like Thresh, like Nautilus Uprising, and obviously they make it very hard for Janna to lane 2v2. Um, I mean, that said, it's not an awful pick. The issue is that Ramelia is a playmaking support, and obviously Janna doesn't have the most potential there. There are supports like Wolf from the LCK who use Janna quite aggressively and quite effectively, but see what route she decides to go this route. I'm curious if Baby is picking Thresh. I mean, obviously he is a Thresh player, but if it's really just a first pick, because typically you wouldn't say like blue side, first pick, Thresh. It has to be Thresh, simply because they're taking it away from Romelia or because it's that important to Baby. On the other side, though, it's Gnar and Sejuani.
Of course, this Thresh pick, it's both, honestly. Ramelia, important to take that Thresh away from her without a doubt, but Baby showed up yesterday on this Thresh pick in a way that we did not expect. And it's part of the big reason that Cloud9 was able to come up on top. On top of that, maybe we could say that Yasui was struggling, but really at the end of the day, Baby, I think I called him Mad Life Jr. yesterday. He really could not miss a hook. And I was pretty impressed with the play overall. And of course, on the opposite side, RF Legendary and Alberto getting this team fighting composition or starting to build it. Alberto now on this Sejuani. You said you wanted to see more early game plays, or we talked about seeing more early game plays, and this Sejuani really not going to do it. Guys, Frost had to duck out for a quick second for a quick emergency, so I'm going to solo cast through the rest of this pick ban, but she will be back before the game starts. So you won't have to watch the pause, but you won't have to hear just me for a little bit. So Gragas and Azir locked in for Frank Fang Gaming. It feels mostly like the same team comp. 14A actually proved himself on the Gragas yesterday as well. Really, just overall, most improved player in the challenger scene without a doubt. He's been very quick to the coaching, very quick to adapting to the competitive meta as opposed to solo queue. But on the side of Misfits, they're finally building a team that I feel like has a much more clear focus. They're going to be able to fight these team fights. Every fight that they forced last game with this Evelynn pick is going to be a lot easier now with the Sejuani pick because you think Agony's Embrace does give you a lot of option. If you can get ahead with that Evelynn pick, it's going to do a lot of damage. She's going to be able to kill the backline pretty easily, but they're kind of shifting that kill pressure off of the jungler and now putting it elsewhere. As you can see, Stixxay getting that Jinx now has a late game scaling hyper carry, and Alberto now has an easier way to set up these team fights with RF being able to follow up on the backside with this Gnar. Can they execute? We will have to see, but Ramelia, so this is the great in-between. I like Thresh for Amelia more than anything. Like most people, she's the Thresh queen. We've talked about this. But the Morgana kind of gives her the best of both worlds in a lot of ways. It gives her a lot of teamfight presence in the same way that the Thresh does. It gives her a decent amount of peel in the same way that Thresh does. But it also is more defensive, can be more defensive than the Janna, offers the Black Shield to keep Stixxay or anyone else from getting really blown up or hard CC'd in a way that can negatively affect them. And especially against Golden Glue on this Azir pick, it's going to be pretty useful. The downside, though, they are giving up this Sivir, and once again, not sure if they're going to take it here. Ladman may prefer something more aggressive. Sivir, not entirely his style. They have a lot of flexibility in the picks available to them, and this would be interesting here. The hovers over haven't quite gone through, so we'll go over them when they happen. But the Misfits lineup I like a lot more this time. We talked about wanting more early game from Crumbs. We're not going to get that, but what we are going to get is a more sound, more solid team fight. Now, of course, with the final lock-ins, it's going to be Sivir and Vladimir, and this one is hit miss for me personally. Now, I really am not a fan of team comps that tend to stray towards too much late game scaling, and I feel like picking up the Vladimir and the Azir is a little bit too much of a late game focus. Azir in the mid game does decent manage, but requires or decent damage, but requires so much setup time because he needs those three Sand Soldiers to really be efficient. Of course, Vlad Hemo Plague will help that, but Vlad on his own also not going to be the biggest threat here, and will survive, admittedly, against RF here, though, so he may not find that same CS loss that he had in the previous game. And Alex Each now, the hover over is on this Orianna, and for those of you who haven't gotten to watch it, we'll see, it may have been a proxy pick. We'll have to see what gets locked in here. It's going to be Kassadin, actually, for Alex Each, and if you've ever watched Alex Each in the last 6 months, you know this one, and this is going to be absolutely lethal. Golden Glue, we saw Yasui play this matchup yesterday, actually, and perform very well in it. And in the early levels, Golden Glue is going to be fine to get ahead. Kassadin really can't trade. He's a melee champion. But around level 4 or 5 even, when Null Sphere starts to mitigate a lot of damage, when Force Pulse becomes really reliable to use because Azir has to keep spamming soldiers to really trade effectively, that's when Alex Leach is going to be able to start turning this one. So once again, with these mid lane picks, it's going to be a pretty solid mid lane matchup, but a lot of focus on the junglers again. And really the difference here being that 14A going to have a much easier time in the early to mid game with this Gragas pick, as opposed to Alberto, who is going to have a little bit harder time ganking early effectively with this Sejuani.
I mean, frankly, I'm just shocked that Golden Glue got the Azir again. We talked about how I thought that that was the primary pick that would be up for contention, and pretty much the other two were banned away. Nunu and Maokai were taken off the board.
So what are your thoughts on this team comp? We talked about having more early pressure, and Misfits haven't gone for that. They've gone for more mid game kind of team fighting and in a late game hyper carry for both Alex H and Stixxay. Do you think it's appropriate to shift Stixxay onto a hyper carry? Do you think this is a better composition for Misfits? And is it surprising to see them take such a different direction here?
The thing that's a little bit terrifying for Misfits composition is a lot of their power is weighted into that late game. The fact that Cassidy and Jinx are both going to be hyperscaling late game carries, and that they, on top of that, then have a jungler like Sejuani. Yes, you can make early plays with Sejuani. Level 3, she does have gank ability there, but it's mostly about that post level 6 power spike in her ganks. And her first initial clear is very, very weak and very slow because she needs to back between the buffs to do so safely. So this is my concern, that the early game is a huge target for Misfits. And if Fang Gaming can find an advantage there, snowball it into their mid-game team fight, and then find that late-game hyperscaling to match Cassidy and Jinx with Vlad and Azir, things can look a little bit sticky.
Well, we're going to have to see exactly how this unfolds. Obviously, a relatively similar composition coming in from Fang Gaming, at least in form of the Azir pick as well as the Thresh. Have to see if 14A can have the same impact on this Gragas as he did in the Nunu. But, guys, have about 3 minutes of spectator delay here before we get into Game 2. A lot of pressure on the Misfits to bring this one back. Nothing worse than being down 2-0 in a best of 5, and we hope to see not to find them there, hoping for a full 5 games. But we'll see you guys in a few minutes. As always, check out that giveaway. We'll talk about it more in the future, and we'll see you in a few. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to the grand finals of the AlphaDraft Challenger League. My name is Daniel Dracos, joined again by Ryan Frosker and more. It's going to be Fang Gaming, hot off their first win, versus Misfits. And starting it up for Fang, as we see some trading in the mid lane, it's going to be Brandon for the win on that top lane. Vladimir, 14A on the jungle, Gragas. Golden Glue on the jungle, or the mid lane Azir, not jungle. Probably wouldn't be too good. Latman and Baby bringing up the bot lane with the Sivir and the Thresh.
And on the other side, it's going to be Misfits. It's going to be RF Legendary on that top lane Gnar. Alberto or Crumbs will be taking Sejuani to the jungle this time. Alex has that Cassidy in the mid lane. And then Stixie and Remilia in the bot lane with Jinx and Morgana. So Remilia getting on that playmaking support.
And I'm excited to see this one. Obviously going to be a lot easier to lock people down with those bindings as opposed to it's a tornado. Also, I just think overall, I talked a little bit how I like this pick a lot more from Remilia while you were away for a brief moment. And I said, I feel like it's the in-between between that Janna and that Thresh pick, which is much closer to, I think, Remilia's comfort zone overall.
I know that she's a very aggressive support. She wants to go ham in lane. She likes to make roams. She likes to make roams and impact the map, so this definitely fits more to her playstyle. And she should be fairly comfortable with this matchup since she's had to play against it pretty much her entire career.
But we've always seen her find the hooks. We'll have to see if Baby can do the same. It looks Stixie gonna get spotted out by Brandon for the win. Brandon for the win's gonna have to walk away from that one. So with this early lane swap and with this devotion of 2 to the top side of the map, how is this gonna affect the early strategy of both teams?
Well, obviously, because Misfits knew that the lane swap was happening, Alberto did start the top side of his jungle, so he started that red buff, smited it back, so he has the extra health. Already, RF Legendary is double jungling with him. What should happen if it's a traditional standard lane swap is they're going to then clear one extra camp, cross over the river. As they move across river, if they feel they need extra security, Remilia will pull down with them. They'll invade 14A's jungle, take his blue buff, prep the wave. We did see that Stixie walked forward, caught the creep wave, so he's starting to build a slow push. And we'll see if they take that top tier tower or they try to look for the dive on Brandon for the win.
Now, this is interesting. We've kind of characterized Fang Gaming as a superior team as far as map movement goes, at least from what we saw in the first game. And I'm wondering if Misfits are just kind of trying to step it up in this game, knowing that they dropped the ball a little bit in game 1, trying a little bit more, a more strategic approach to the early game as opposed to what they started with in the previous game. And I'm wondering how it's going to work out for them. We've seen Misfits execute lane swaps in the past, but it's been very rare that they haven't been happy to send their 2v2 versus the opposing side's 2v2.
They actually executed a lane swap in the very first game that they played against the AlphaDraft tournament, and that was the game where we saw this team, and they were pretty much the first challenger team to execute a lane swap as efficiently as they did. I believe that they got the first tower, first blood, and first dragon all in one lane swap, and it was like, wow, watch out for this team, they're going to be incredible. That said, since then, they've gone more to the traditional lanes of the 2v2 and the 1v1, and they've had very mixed success. Not that their laners aren't strong, but obviously their veteran talent, their LCS talent, is located in their jungle and mid lane synergy. And again, that's kind of been the storyline of, yeah, we know what Alex and Crumbs are capable of, but can Remilia and Intent step forward? Can RF Legendary step forward? And they've each had their different storylines and story arcs when they've been able to be the true carries of their team. So to see them kind of go back to the lane swap that we saw initially was super successful was very comforting to see, especially against Fang Gaming. It's all going to be how Fang Gaming will now play the bottom side of this map. Typically, for a lane swap, we do see now that Brandon for the win is double jungling. We'll see if he goes up top lane to his tower and maybe tries to contest this, or if he will look towards the dragon. So this is kind of your answer. Will they send Baby and Brandon top, or will they all just collapse on the dragon?
They may just be moving into the jungle here. We'll have to see. Misfits obviously on the top side. More than happy to let Jinx farm up and build a wave. Wouldn't be surprised to see a fast tower push for that early gold advantage and early map pressure. But it'll be interesting to see what they do here. And Fang Gaming appear to be just responding in kind. Haven't really missed a beat quite yet.
With these backs from Baby and Latman, it appears that they're sending Sivir and Thresh up into that top lane to face across Jinx's 2v2. Instead of for a slow push, it looks like Stixie has actually evened it out for a freeze.
I'm curious.
Which is pretty weird, actually, because Alberto and RF are underneath him.
It's a little bit odd here. I feel like they could have gone for a tower dive here. I know Sivir reasonably strong in the early levels, has a lot of damage, but Actually, very smart from
Good
Latman.
lord.
Has not leveled up. Has not taken a second point yet. Has made sure to save the spell shield in case they get dived on. So good adaptation from him not to level up a skill too early, not until he actually needs it. And look at, I mean, Golden Glue normally falls so far behind so quickly, and I feel like he's looking a lot more confident in this mid lane matchup after winning out in game 1.
I want to quickly just touch on this lane swap one last time. So what ended up happening, even though Alberto is setting up for a gank here, so hold on, Golden Glue, he's okay.
Goes in, gets the charge, not going to get any knock up from it though, so just going to walk away from that one.
So what Stixie did is he walked into the wave and he caused the enemy creeps to focus fire him, so that means that when they turned on his own wave that they're going to actually start pushing farther ahead, and a lot of AD carries will do this so they can control the wave and build up a slow push, but technically if you leave it alone, it's just going to force the enemy wave to push your wave back. So he used it to set up a freezer to kind of bounce his minion wave back down to cause the enemy to overextend, and instead of a dive, they used that to create an interesting situation where Alberto and RF could look for a two-man gank on the lane that would be overextended in the top lane, but there was a great adaptation from Baby. Instead of walking around the long way in the lane and warding from the lane into the river, he warded over the wall into the river, and that ward alone probably saved their life. So good job from Baby to heads up, know what's going on.
Definitely good responses, and Fang Gaming still going toe-to-toe with Misfits, although Misfits building up a small lead just based on small CS discrepancies here and there, or rather large discrepancies in the case of this Jinx, now 32 to Sivir's 20, so swapping back those lanes, not paying off quite as well. And RF still looking pretty comfortable in this bottom lane, top lane, bottom side matchup. With the Gnar versus Vladimir matchup, when does Vlad become more powerful than Gnar, or does he ever?
Level 9. The thing about Gnar versus Vlad is Gnar is going to be an item-dependent champion. Vlad is going to be a level-dependent champion. So what I mean by that is when Vlad gets level 9, he gets enough CDR and enough points into his Q where it's on such a short and low cooldown that it makes his trading that much more effective. Likewise, when he gets more points into his E, his wave clear becomes that much more oppressive. Whereas Gnar is really relying on his tankiness and his itemization, whether that be through a Frozen Mallet, a Black Cleaver, or even a Randuin's Omen Rush. Although it shouldn't be a Randuin's in this case against Vlad. He's able to look toe-to-toe with his Mega Gnar form.
To see what they decide to do here. Vladimir with the boot start, an interesting choice from Brandon for the win, but obviously having 4 pots to start as well. Paying off for him, hasn't had to crack a single one yet, so not too much pressure. Both top laners staying relatively even, and I was praising Golden Glue for looking confident, and now it looks like he's losing pretty hard in CS here. Brandon for the win could be in trouble though, using that Sanguine Pool to get out Alberto. A little bit of damage down here. They're trying to burn out this kill. Brandon for the win has to be careful. One more auto attack. Not going to do it, but Alberto tanking the tower aggro. RF hasn't transformed yet. Not going to find the boomerang. Will Brandon for the win make it out? He's going to get first blood! A massive turn! Too much. I don't even know what to say. Beautiful play from Brandon for the win.
Okay, so unfortunate for RF Legendary right there. He canceled an auto attack as well as he didn't connect on the boomerang. We saw that Alberto ran into the tower aggro, and I think there was a slight miscommunication because RF didn't pull the trigger immediately and just run and continue diving. Obviously, Alberto stood on the very edge of tower aggro, so that way he could take as many shots as necessary before backing off and to do so safely. Just so unfortunate to cancel that last auto before it connected with Brandon, but a beautiful turn, the E into the Q. Wow. Just wow.
Just exactly. Just amazing play there. I'm not the
I'm
best
tilted from watching that.
I would just would have kept running. I would have kept running, but Brandon for the win, such good knowledge of his damage, such confidence to turn that one around, and that's huge. The lanes are now swapped back. They don't want that Vlad to face the Gnar anymore now that he has that advantage. But it looks like Vlad may also head top here shortly. We'll have to see as he starts his back.
I think the bigger issue is because RF Legendary had died, and since Stixie and Ramili had just reset the wave by pushing into the tower, it was just kind of a good window of opportunity to say, like, okay, you know, we're not sacrificing any sort of CS here, because obviously RF's dead and we've just completed our wave. So let's swap back so we can get dragon control, because typically the thing that you're giving up in a lane swap, especially when you swap your 2v2 to the top side, is you're giving up your dragon control. You're saying the first dragon, it's your guys', it's for free. The fact that that wasn't a trade here, it's still the most heavily contested priority on the bottom side of the map. So they want to make sure that they have the numbers advantage there.
And while I do feel like Fang Gaming may be responding very quickly to these lane matchups, they have been losing a lot for Sivir, who's been having to swap back and forth repeatedly. A 14 CS lead for Jinx. and steadily growing, and Jinx just not one of those characters you want to let scale comfortably, and of course on Stixxay, one of the most lethal AD carries in the Challenger scene. It feels like it could be a misstep to let this Jinx farm so freely.
Obviously, it's going to be very scary, especially as we are seeing that CS discrepancy, like you said. 13 between 15 CS is going to equate to kill gold, so technically, even though the scores are 0-0 and 0, with that CS lead, Jinx might as well be 1-0 on Severa right now. The concern right now, especially for Fang Gaming, and it makes sense now that Misfits look for the lane swap, because not only does it protect their Jinx, but it protects their jungler. So obviously with the Sejuani, she has that slower clear and she gets very low. If she has a double jungle buddy, which she had RF Legendary in the early game, as well as the fact that since she had a numbers disadvantage on one side of the map, it just makes it that much scarier to invade her. It makes her stronger for longer. It kind of protects that really fragile early clear. So pretty clever right there, and I feel like Fang Gaming kind of missed their window as far as their early game jungle pressure to make an impact on this map.
Each team moving in, trying to apply pressure here. A lot of attention being paid to this top one. Looks like 14 Hay knows that they can kind of just try to push this advantage even further. Vlad with the early Hextech Revolver. Have a lot of sustain in this lane matchup, but Stixxay and Remilia on the bottom side look totally unafraid of Sivir and Thresh at this point. And Remilia, I mean, she knows that champion like the back of her hand, and it feels like she just has absolute confidence in that matchup.
Well, they've got great vision, as well as the fact that Alberto's on that side of the map. Morgana herself is always going to be a really safe laner just because of Black Shield and how it works against protecting for CC. But just the fact that they have the vision on top of the Black Shield, on top of the Sejuani above them, allows them to play this far forward and to really punish the CS discrepancy, as well as the item difference between these two AD carries, the pickaxe versus the BF sword.
And one thing I do want to point out in the difference in the lane matchups here is that Brandon for the win is just now really confident on the top side despite the magic resist presented by the Gnar, and is just no fear hitting the Gnar until Mega Gnar comes out and then just backing off and going back in again. So clearly knows this lane matchup pretty well. We've seen him play Gnar once or twice, and I'm really liking this Vlad pick. I said in the Champions Select while you were away that I'm just super skeptical in general. We'll see if it works out though. Alex Each taking a huge chunk. And Golden Glue's life bar in that exchange, and Misfits keeping even in gold despite the kill advantage presented on that bottom side.
Well, typically the answer to Gnar is actually Kennen. You could think, well, why is Kennen so strong against Gnar? The big thing about Gnar is that he's a resourceless champion. He doesn't have a mana bar, and so Kennen obviously is also using energy. Is using energy. On the other side as well. Oh, hold on.
Oh, the quick kill! Stixxay more than happy to grab that one. Super Mega Death Rocket nerf's not going to be enough to stop that from going down. Already ahead, the quick taunt spam as a little music box comes out, and Remilia and Stixxay stepping up their game now when they're on picks they're a little more comfortable with, and this is why we saw that Jinx banned away. Near flawless damage calculations coming out from both these guys, and not dropping too much of their own either. Flash heal still up for Stixxay, flash still up for Remilia. Just about everything burned out for Latman. RF could be in trouble. Brandon for the win going in. 14-8 going to try to find it. He has the cast, knocking him into the wall. Sanguine Pool under the base, and Brandon for the win grabbing yet another kill. RF Legendary going down as well. Constant action here, and Fang Gaming getting something back, but losing a turret.
But with so many resources expended top, that means that it should be a free dragon for Misfits, especially as Alex steps forward and applies a heavy pressure into that bot lane. The thing, though, is because they have Jinx and she shreds towers faster than any other AD carry, it's not just the dragon that Fang Gaming are forfeiting in this gank top, it's also the bottom tier tower.
See if they can get anything else. Latman could be in trouble. The box is coming out. On the hunt is going to be used. Looks like they're just going to back off in that exchange. Not wanting to push too far. Knowing better after that last skirmish. But you're right. Jinx so lethal. I think every time you type it, if you leave Jinx unattended, if you mismanage your waves, Jinx will take a turret. It happened just as expected.
Let's talk about Vlad again. Okay, so we're talking about how Vlad, like Kennen, is a resourceless champion, so obviously he's not competing against the fact that Gnar doesn't have a mana bar, can infinitely throw out those boomerangs. The other big thing about Kennen is that he's very hard to lock down. He's got his little lightning bolt, so it's hard for Gnar to just walk him down with his boomerang when he finds his slow. The same side, Vlad has a pool, his troll pool, so obviously he can either dodge the boomerang, or because he's on an elongated lane, he can just kind of surf his way back to freedom. And then he also has built-in sustain, which Gnar has to itemize for. So it's kind of all of these things together that really make Vlad not a counter, I would say, but a strong match for Gnar in a lane.
Definitely, you can see that coming through here. 2-0, the lead in kills, and of course 83 CES, but Alberto waiting over the wall, does not know that the brush is warded, but can go in. Doesn't have Glacial Prison either. Interesting choice for him to be on the bottom side. We'll have to see if they can find something. Amelia, hungry for a binding, as always. Lots of members of Frank Fang on the top. They're going in for the hook. They're not going to follow it up. Alberto just waiting. A lot of patience shown here.
Doesn't have that Glacial Prism, though, as well as doesn't have Vermilion on Thresh, so there's no Lantern available. Looks like he's looking for the peek over the wall. Finds the pink ward instead. It's cool. Got a free pink.
Sit there. At least he got some gold for all the time he spent there. Ooh,
it's important what
the
the response is. Yeah, here we go, on the top side or not, because they know where Crumbs
Rinse
is.
and repeat. No fear as they go in on this one. RF Legendary not going to be able to make it out. And once again, going down. Brandon for the win. Not normally the carry focus for this team, but now on a killing spree. An needlessly large rod. A massive CS lead. And I'm surprised he didn't spam laugh after that one, returning this favor from Stixay. A little more respect paid at this point.
Gonna be absurd damage coming out of this Vladimir, but will it be enough to answer Cassidy and Jinx? Alexish, as usual, has a CS discrepancy built up in that mid lane, 118 to 133. This Cassidy is going to be a monster, has the rod available. Surely when that stacks up, he'll have another fine power spike available. Likewise, Stixie, 1 kill up, as well as 10 CS to his own, but
Brandon for the win, getting engaged on. He does use the single pool to get out of that one. TB coming in on the backside. 14A actually going to tank the Glacial Prison, but explosive cast knocking back Alex East right as he comes out of that Rift Walk. RF trying to find something. Stuck in Mini Gnar. Cannot build Rage fast enough to transform or find an engage. They're going to have to back off. It's actually just going to be RF burning teleport for nothing there.
The issue with their team composition, and by they I mean Misfits, is that they don't necessarily have any hard engage outside the Glacial Prism. So Alberto, we saw the Glacial Prism kind of whiffed, it hit on the very back end 14A, but they weren't able to burst him down quick enough. So it's all about that ultimate.
Definitely, now that it's down, you can see how far forward Frank Fang Gaming are playing. Latman clearing out the waves on the top side, trying to make sure this turret doesn't go down to that Jinx. Not leaving her unattended again. And Frank Fang, just good on them to capitalize on that opportunity. Not getting too much, but a decent opportunity to do damage. And I'm wondering if we're going to see Brandon for the win actually take up residency in the mid lane here to continue trading with Alex Each. He is just so far ahead.
This is something that Misfits actually do fairly well, is they do a great job making sure that they rotate their bot lane to the available and, identifying the most opportune towers and rotating their bot lane to take them immediately afterwards. So there's never any like wasted time where everyone's kind of standing around the mid lane waiting for something to happen. It's okay, what's the next objective? This is where you're gonna go. You're gonna push it down. We're gonna surplus our gold and snowball like this.
Stixay playing very carefully for that surprise Gorhega's gang, throwing the chompers into the brush, now pushing it to the top side, but 3 members present from Frank Fang. Dragging up in 2 minutes, so they're not going to lose too much for committing this many resources, at least at this stage in the game. And feels like Misfits, a lot more wards on the map, a lot more defensive wards as well.
Matching up RF Legendary in the mid lane across Brandon for the win. And now Alex Each has actually rotated down bottom that Caston and picking up a bunch of free farm. We'll see if Frank Fang Gaming can push against this.
Now, Alberto not even going to come down for that one. They are just going to give up this tower. And the gold lead now extended about 1k. Amelia trying to find the binding, gonna hit Baby. Traps coming out as well, keeping him locked down, getting a lot of poke down, but they're not gonna find the follow-up.
Oh.
Alberto misses it, 2 quick misses, but Alberto will make it out. Amelia giving her life for that mistake on the side of Misfits. Alberto could be in trouble. Play ready to go down. Hemo Plague has already dropped. Alberto may have enough health to survive, but Golden Loop on the backside gonna clean that one up. Alex Each and RF pushing back to the mid lane. Not gonna be enough though as they get knocked back. Alex Each should be able to hop out of this one. Have to be careful though, the rest of Frank Fang Gaming moving down, blood in their eyes as they push through on this one.
Just a gorgeous rotation from Frank Fang Gaming, pretty much in every single front. To see the read that Alex was in bottom, knowing that RF Legendary didn't have the wave clear to contest them for that mid-tier tower, immediately push it down, and then a beautiful rotation top to see that Stixie had committed to the top tier tower. Punish right there. Really clean.
And You know, starting to be what we've come to expect from Frank Fan Gaming. You talk about Misfits rotating their resources very quickly, reapplying them as soon as the tower goes down, and that's exactly what we just saw from Frank Fan Gaming. The second that tower went down, we need to be top. There are multiple members top. We need to make sure they can't take top, and they turn. It's just a beautiful counter gank. They had it warded up, they spotted it coming in, and they responded well. And now we're going to have to see what they do around this dragon pit. RF kind of relegated to the top lane. We'll have teleport in about a minute, but it may not be enough, and they may just have to give this one up as members of Frank Fan Gaming slowly start to push in here.
I mean, the biggest difference right now is that RF has a Hex Drinker and a Null Cloak to his name versus a completed Hourglass, as well as the Hex Tech Revolver to Brandon for the win. And just what that Vladimir ultimate is going to mean in a big 5v5 AoE environment. I don't think that there's any way Misfits can fight this in a true 5v5. I think they need to either control vision and play around minion waves or just give this one up. This is very scary.
And when you think about Sivir, you definitely don't think about like this late game scaling hyper 80 carry, but her burst damage is obviously insane with Boomerang Blade, and just that 10% increase from Hemoplague at this stage of the game, 12% increase from Hemoplague is going to be pretty massive, especially now paired with the Azir as well, and it feels like if Frank Fan Gaming ever get to fight on their terms before Jinx and Kassadin really get going, they're just going to dominate that fight.
Although we have Brandon for the win looking at Alex. Alex, of course, has that absurd mobility. We'll see if Baby has something to say about it.
The hook is gonna land. He cannot miss those. The slow coming out as well. Brandon for the win. Moving in with the Sanguine Pool. The exhaust going down. He's gonna be able to jump out one more time. Is it gonna be enough? Flash available. Alex Siege, no flash to his name.
Oh.
Get out. And an unfortunate turner. Flash traded for a flash. No ult used by Brandon for the win, though, so not losing too much for that one. But they are going to move in and take the dragon now. Definitely. But they are moving in to take the dragon, making use of that pressure, as you said they would, and also pushing into the bottom lane turret as well.
The other big thing that I wanted to talk about as far as composition, Sivir works so wonderfully with Vladimir. We talked about how Sivir and Eve are really important because it's so important to Eve's engagement that she gets the flank. It's the exact same thing with Vlad. I mean, obviously, if you see a Vlad running at you just in a straight line, you're just going to back up because you realize what he wants to do. He really needs to get that flanking engagement so he can land a really nice ultimate across the majority of the team members, and On the Hunt helps beautifully with that. And then the fact, I like that you brought it up, that the Hemoplague is going to allow Sivir to kind of compensate for her lack of damage, especially when she's across from a Jinx. But the fact of the matter is that they have a triple threat composition. They have a Sivir, they have an Azir and a Vladimir, two AP mages that are going to scale beautifully into that late game. The big item that needs to come out for Misfits is that, what is it? Locket of the Iron Solari. My brain was like, Locket of the Iron Solari, there's Sunshine. They need a Locket. And they need a Locket.
Super Aegis.
Super Aegis. The shield, right? The shield.
Back in the day when Locket
I had coffee, can you tell?
And Super Aegis. Well, good for you. I need some myself. I need more enthusiasm. I mean, this game is pretty hype when you look at it. 5-1. Frank Fan Gaming, the underdogs, coming up so big. And this is game 2. They already took game 1. This is rare from Misfits to see them behind, and they have the late game lineup. I think we can be pretty sure of that, but they don't have the triple threat. And if Brandon for the win continues to snowball at the rate that he has, he's going to hit that late game Vladimir point very quickly already. Cooldown boots, Hextech Revolver, Hourglass. And on the opposite side, RF Legendary picking Gnar once again with a very different composition. Hasn't found a good engage, and they're really not finding those engages.
That said, I mean, it's easy to point at RF Legendary to say, you know, 0-3-0. Obviously, he was kind of the detriment to Misfits this time around. Got ganked a lot, had a lot of pressure, a lot of resources from Frank Fan Gaming expended on that top lane. But I think the real difference in these last 2 games have been 14A's performance and impact on the map versus Crumb's.
Alberto has been struggling in the last couple of days. Definitely had some excellent showings yesterday versus Legendary, but Frank Fan Gaming, clearly a much more confident team when it comes to map movement. And you're right, 14A, we can't praise this guy enough. He's stepped up so much beyond what we expected when he was described to us as this bloodthirsty challenger player. Because we've seen the story of the bloodthirsty challenger player is alive and well in just about every member of the challenger scene, right? And very rare do we see people temper that and adapt to this 5v5 environment. And 14A has done that. 0-0-2, not as good as the Nunu, admittedly, but still having amazing impact on first team.
definitely was the catalyst for the snowball that was created in the top lane. We'll see if Misfits are able to recover from this, especially with their late game hyper carries and Jinx and Kassadin, or if Fang Gaming will continue to run away with this game. Like I said, the Locket, we do have the Aegis finally completed for Alberto, so that is certainly going to help come a next 5v5, but the big thing we're looking for is that third completed item for Stixie, as well as the fully stacked rod and second completed item for Alex.
It looks like he could potentially, maybe the Zonya's here for a little bit more defensive options. We'll have to see exactly what he decides to itemize, but I like this build from Golden Glue a lot. Once again, rushing the Abyssal Scepter, giving a lot of respect to the magic damage present from Alex Siege, despite him performing much better this game and having a much superior lane phase. He's not super far behind, obviously losing out on CS, but between his team's gold lead, he's doing pretty well. So still giving that respect, and it's kind of Fang Gaming just playing this very simple, very straightforward, and very confident game.
This is going to sound really bizarre, but I actually think Azir and Sivir, specifically as picks, mean so much to Fang Gaming's style, which obviously if you look at this game, you go, no, it's the Gragas and the Vladimir that are really doing the true carrying of this game right now. But again, they're a rotation macro-based team where it's about outmaneuvering an opponent, and the On the Hunt and the siege potential from the Azir Tower as well as the Sand Soldiers do so much for them late game when they set up to make these amazing sieges.
Now Siege though slowly starting to scale up and gain confidence. You saw just that massive chunk of Thresh's health taken out in that quick Force Pulse Null Sphere combo. So they have to be careful. We talk about late game scaling threats. Siege is getting there pretty quickly. May not be on kills or global objectives for his team, but definitely looking confident nonetheless. As Misfits push into the bottom side of the jungle, and looks like Fang are just going to let him have this one.
Issue with Azir, I say that very lightly, is that he needs to be set up before he does his damage. So there's not a ton of synergy between Sivir and Azir, just because making your Sand Soldiers run at 70 miles an hour, it's pretty much Azir arrives somewhere and then the Sand Soldiers quickly catch up to them. Although he may have an engagement.
Trying to find a way in, not going to find the hook. Brandon for the win on the backside, though. That Vlad triple chemo play going in. The Gnar not going to hit anybody. Brandon for the win. So many vulnerability frames will get taken down, but Jinx trying to come on the backside. She is excited. She will be able to run back in, but so little mana as they try to find the hook. Latman having to flash out, and late game scaling coming in quickly. Alex sees on the backside. Exhaust going down. They're breaking their way into the backline. Stixie, will he find his target? Doesn't look like it, and a relatively even team fight at first turns into the 2-for-0 exchange in the favor of Misfits. Everyone walking out of there with blinking health bars.
And it was a beautiful turn from Alberta right there, from saving his Glacial Prism, waiting for the full Troll Pull as well as the Zonya Hourglass to proc before he threw it, locked it on 3 members, and was really the turning point for that team fight. What I was just talking about is Azir needs to set up his Sand Soldiers. When you're contesting an objective, when you're contesting a tower, setting up for a team fight, he needs to get there and make sure that he gets the CDR and the rotations required, so he has all 3 soldiers available. And the issue was, Brennan for the win, he went in, he got the back flank, but there was no one to follow up on his, I think it was a 4-man chemo plague. And then Golden Glue had to wait multiple rotations before he could get all of his Sand Soldiers up, so miscommunication from Fang Gaming and an excellent turn from Misfits.
But they will secure that second dragon in response, so they are getting something back for it, but they have to be careful. The gold is now even. I think we can pretty safely say that the scaling, at least for these 2 carries on the side of Misfits, is going to be in their favor, especially if we keep seeing Vladimir not really have the follow-up from his team, or kind of the miscommunication on those engages. See if Fang kind of back off and play a little more cautious, or go for something else. Misfits pushing in for deep vision. Moving forward into the game. Is Baron a realistic objective for either of these teams, or is there really any opportunity for them to risk it?
And these are a lot of questions that I ask myself. Is Hurricane a realistic item on Jinx? Is Stixie building it? Will it be finished by the time they contest Baron?
So you really did miss a couple patches. Double dagger turns into recurve bow. That's the build path for Blade of the Rune King now.
Oh, there we go. Like I said, I've been in Florida. Tallahassee's a strange place.
You've been watching all those 5.7s games. This is 5.9 now. We have recurve bows that build into Blade of the Rune King. Does it work aesthetically? No. But it makes sense.
Thank goodness you clarified, because I was looking at that, I was like, there must have been a massive change, because he's about to build. I would have had to sing Scorpion, it would have been bad. You get it? Yeah?
Yeah, Rocky
Was
like
that
a
too?
hurricane.
Was
Yeah.
that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you got it.
Okay.
Your glam rock reference on it.
I have pink hair. I can be as glam rock as I want.
All right. Well, we'll derailed. Dang it. All right. Moving forward into the game.
Baron!
Misfits pushing in for vision control. Now they have a ton of vision around the Baron, not spotting out that ward, and Alex Siege going in, taking a decent chunk out of the health bar of Vladimir. Vladimir starting to shift his build into something a little bit more tanky, hoping to live a little bit longer in these fights outside of just those Zanya's cool kind of invulnerability states. I'm stuck on Rocky like a hurricane. I can't lie.
I'm
It's in
sorry.
my
Okay.
head now.
Misfits have RF Legendary bottoms. What he's doing here is he's going to create a big pressure point and set up a very large wave. And either they're going to catch someone on rotation down towards it from Fang Gaming, okay, or they're just going to do the Baron. So effectively what they wanted to do is they wanted to make more resources commit bottom, and then when resources were all bottom, look towards a free easy Baron. But instead they're sneaking it because Stixie is using his max range Jinx and hitting it over the back of the wall much like a Caitlyn would.
No, Costas is not going to get spotted out. They're going to grab this one for themselves. Alberto securing that one. He stole 2 Barons yesterday, by the way, against Legendary.
Did he do it like that?
No, I mean, like, actually, like, jumped in and Smite stole it and, like, carried his team to victory. But that one, he finally gets to secure. Uncontested, a clever strike. I haven't seen that in a long time. I think the last time I saw that was, like, Caitlyn Thresh pulling people over the wall, like, taking it over the wall, and a clever adaptation for Misfits and an aggressive move, but when they fell so far behind in that first game and it felt like they were falling behind in this one, that quick decision-making is going to start turning things around for them, and a big step for confidence in the favor of Misfits.
Remember, kids, always ward the pit. And if you want good warding locations in the pit, Baron has a giant head, ward behind its head, because you have to physically move your camera to hit the ward.
Dang, secrets, S5 secrets GG.
Diggy was like, darn it!
You're not supposed to tell people. You're our coach, not their coach.
Baroned up, Misfits, back in the driver's seat.
And they
Half
are.
a gold lead.
Without a doubt, they are. And of course, Glacial Prison available. That Mega Gnar Ultimate available for RF as well. So if they ever wanted to get this wombo combo, they have the time, but they don't necessarily need to. Alex Siege looking comfortable, split pushing off into the side lane here, and that Jinx, if they ever commit too many members down to fight him, we talk about it, Jinx taking those turrets in an instant.
And what they're doing here is they're applying the Baron buff in all 3 waves. So again, RF Legendary has his teleport available. Alex is a very mobile Kassadin, very slippery, if you will, applying his Baron buff in the bot lane, and then 3, so it's the 1-3-1. The split push Kassadin.
And I feel like a lot of times you see Alex Siege adapt different strategies, but today he seems to be favoring the split push. Kassadin, I think much better out of than LeBlanc. Let's see if they go in here, landing the hook. Maybe just flexing a little bit, wants to show people he can land him if he needs to. Baron buff minions getting 14A a hard time. Tank Gragas really not going to do too well here. RF doing a lot of damage actually. That hyper proc getting bigger and bigger. Alex Siege could be in trouble though. They're going in on him. They burned on the hunt on the bottom side though. Frank Fang Gaming gonna have to give up the short. Alberto moving in on Brandon for the win. He has the necessary invulnerability time to get out of this if the Lantern will stay, but the Lantern is gonna pop out. 14A taking that one. Brandon for the win in trouble. The Ignite going down. Jinx will get the reset now. Alex Siege on the back line. He finds his way in. He gets 1, he gets 2. 6A on a rampage. He has the speed. The reset's coming in. I believe triple kill. Moving on, cannot find the Quadra, and this looks like Misfits poised to end the game in a single dominant team fight. Resets are just too strong.
And the Jinx, the tower shred, she's so punishing in situations like this. I think, can they end it? They have the cannon creep, it won't, This won't step forward. I don't think they can end.
Yeah, I've got a little too hasty saying they can end. So, Frank Gaming still in the game, definitely pretty far behind now. We saw it in a sudden explosive change in the gold lead, 5K now in favor of Misfits. Frank Gaming still have the advantage in Dragon, and that one is available. We'll be able to take it as we see the remaining members of Misfits move on out of this one, potentially backing, but they do take their blue buff on the way out. We'll have to see how that hurts Gold and Blue, and everything on the map, at least for a moment, is going to calm down.
With the top inhibitor to fall, I always say this, and this sounds like really awkward when I say it. If you were going to lose an inhibitor, you would rather it be the top one.
But why? Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Rocket.
Wow. He juked it. It's cool. Oh, he got
one once again. And what can't he steal? Alberto coming in there, getting that one out. Pretty mad after that Nunu took away from the Dragon from in the last game. Getting a little bit of vengeance here. Now 2-2 in the Dragons. 14A finding himself on the backside. AlphaDraft could be in trouble. He's pushing him back. The Azir sec. Golden Slew isolating the team, but Jinx now left alone to kill that squishy Azir. Moving on, and it looks like an exact repeat. The Meganar available. Patience this time, not throwing that one out. Brandon for the win, making it out. The binding lands mid-flight though. 6A, godlike, the substitute coming in to do the damage necessary to pull that one out. And now they'll break this tower. They may break another inhibitor as well. Misfits from passive to on point and aggressive in just a minute. That's insane.
It's like it all exploded as soon as their hyper carries had their core items done.
I don't need you, Mrs. Facetious. You go back to wherever you...
Power spikes.
Power spikes, killing them all. Alex Beach coming in just so strong. Blade of the Rune King coming out. A little extra movement speed on top of this reset. Wants a little extra glory. Misfits may be able to end this one. GG being called here on both sides. RF get transformed here. They should be able to close this one out. And Misfits tying it up 1-1 here. Wondering if they're going to let this Cassidon through again. And what are they going to give up if they do? That's finally ending. Maybe a couple kills. Shut down on the Jinx, though. Is he going to end it? He's not going to end it. It's still going. It's Fnatic all over again.
I was just thinking, hey, do you remember that game at Worlds? I think it was OMG versus Fnatic. Buckle up.
Of course you remember the Chinese game from Worlds, not the EU LCS game where they base race back and forth 3 times.
Okay, no, here's the thing that I want to talk about, though. So I thought that Azir would be the pick that they would focus, that was the pick that they thought that was going to be important, that they were going to take away. Instead, they decided to go the other direction. They went to the Nunu, they went to the Maokai, they banned those away. And it seems to be the perfect guess, because obviously, complete turnaround in performance from the first game to the second one. Obviously, a big aspect is the fact that the Jinx was banned the first game, is now left open. Stixie picks it up, an incredible, phenomenal performance. 7-1-4 right now.
And this is one of his main characters. He loves these late game scaling hyper carries. This is totally within his identity. Additionally, I was skeptical about the Nunu from 14A. I felt like it didn't quite have the same teamfight impact, but I was completely wrong. Those absolute zeros were the key for them to win in that last game, and you can see here the difference. Explosive Cask knocks everyone away, really lowers the DPS of your carries when you push them or the enemies out of that fight, but the absolute zero keeps them in and keeps them pretty much useless when their attack speed is lowered by such a significant margin.
Big issue is that they don't necessarily have anything to get into that backline and to lock Stixie down. So again, the hard CC, they don't have any. They have a death sentence. If the death sentence doesn't connect, they're effectively waiting for Brandon for the win to get on the backside, or a displacement
on the hunt.
pass.
Burn, are they going to find it? 14A trying to find a way in. Arflicker in the backside. Nor into the wall. 3 getting locked up, taken down. Emperor's Divide, will it be enough? They're caught out, but Alteach is coming in. He's got the damage. Can he lock it down? And he does. Alberto trading his life for that one. But Alteach doing so much. Latman on the backside, maybe able to find this. Gets binded. Ramelia coming through when it counts, and this time, Misfits will end the game.
That almost spelled disaster for Misfits. Ramelia came up huge in the binding right there because Latman had gone untouched and he was actually just mowing through the majority of Misfits' line. I was just talking about how they didn't have any tools, or Frank Fang Gaming didn't have any tools to get to Stixie and to lock him down on the back line. And as I say that, literally Stixie walks into 3 people and immediately blows up. But GG, well played for Misfits, and they've now tied up the series 1-1.
Crazy turnaround here. I imagine we'll see the same pick ban strategy from them. And I mean, what needs to change now for Frank Fang Gaming? I'll ask the question on the opposite side. What do they need to secure to make their team comp work, or they need to throw this one out the window and try some new picks?
I'm pretty sure that Jinx will not